I now call to order the Planning Commission Public Input Session of February 22nd, 2016. Roll call.
Graham here.
Salamat here. Natalie here.
McCoy here. Stewart here. Let the record show that Commissioners Buckholz, Burke, I think that's it, are not with us this evening.
So,
Can we stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Elaine, you want to take us through the proposed comprehensive plan update?
Okay, so,
I'm sorry, for those of you who are not regular attendees, Elaine is a member of the Accomack Northampton County Planning District Commission, who's been basically our arms and legs for most of the process we've been going through this cycle. So, put it in context. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This process started in September of 2013 when there's a requirement from the Commonwealth of Virginia to every 5 years update your comprehensive plan. Now that can be a very straightforward thing. Some places might just read their plan, write a letter and have it attached and adopt it. But if you find significant things that need to be changed, you go ahead and you make those changes and you go through an amendment process. So that started for Cape Charles in September 2013. The Planning Commission then conducted the review. It went through the months of October, November, December, January, February, and then to March 4th, 2014 when they finished their review. At that time, they recognized there were significant changes that needed to be made, and they had contracted with the Planning District Commission to do the actual work of that. So that's when the process began with the public meetings. That continued throughout the summer of that year, and it culminated at the end of the year, November and December, in 2 public input sessions. In January and February, the Planning Commission took the public input and actually made that into the plan as well, and then took it to the Town Council. And I believe that meeting was in April of 2015, and the Town Council wanted additional time to review it, and then they submitted comments as well to the Planning Commission. Those comments were incorporated in the July time frame. They had a several months comment period, and then in July that was also incorporated into the draft comprehensive plan. So, where we're at today, the original plan was 51 pages long. It's now 66. I'm going to go ahead through some of the major revisions. There have been many, many minor revisions. Those minor revisions are things like formatting changes, changing the names to possibly the proper new name. Also, there's been some I guess in some places subdivisions have changed names, and so there's been some edits to say this is its current names, but it's also known as these other names. So there's been some minor revisions like that. But the major ones, I'll just go through. These are not in priority. They are actually based on where they appear in the plans. So the Planning Commission added in information about cost burden households. That was new to the plan. That came from Census 2010. That was incorporated because, of course, the crisis in 2008 occurred after the last comprehensive plan. Basically, it was ending right when that was occurring, and so that information was then incorporated. There was also some additional information on the employment industries of town residents. So that's not necessarily businesses in town, that's where the town folks work. So that information was incorporated. There is some new language to direct the town to pursue a connection of Mason Avenue to the harbor if there ever is a change in land use in that area. So that's kind of a new thing. And also the harbor access road is new as of the last. So all that information had to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. 2 new goals were added. The first was to attract families with children, and the second was to continue to foster prosperity and strengthen households. Both of those were seen as needs that the old plan didn't necessarily address as well, and so they were incorporated by the Planning Commission. There's also several new information on the transportation section. The reason this is, I know it's referred to commonly as the walkability study. It was done in 2012. It actually has a much longer name. I think it's called Healthy Communities, Healthy Places, but people kind of refer to it as the walkability study. That particular study called on several changes to make the town more walkable, and all of those were included. I know some of you have already seen some of those changes occur with regards to the parking changes and things of that nature, and that all resulted from the 2012 walkability study. Those were incorporated. Now, there's another significant transportation edit, and that's called the Chapter 729 Consistency Review. Now, VDOT has a very prescribed format. It's unfortunate because it's not as readable as the rest of the plan, but it does follow the prescribed format that VDOT requires. Because of the new harbor access road, Cape Charles Comprehensive Plan had to be reviewed by VDOT, and that section needs to be added. We believe, unless something changes, your next comprehensive plan, you're not going to have to do it because the harbor road is complete, and that was the thing that triggered that. So you'll find there's several new pages on that 729 consistency review, and it's mostly informational. There are a few items that say you're going to build a new road, but that's actually the only real project that's identified in that part of the plan. Excuse me. One of the new things that probably I think is very exciting for the Planning Commission is the new strategy to also connect the town through the bicycle to the southern tip. So that's a new strategy that was not in there before, and so efforts to try and pursue that are now described in the plan. Of course, one of the more difficult sections to incorporate was the changing of the hospital. That was not the case in 2009. There was no concern there. But of course now significant strategies have been added to take in and try and increase commitment on the town's part to work with Northampton County to address hospital care and also additional medical care needs in this area of the county. All of that was not in the original plan, and obviously because of changes there, it's been a big section has been now incorporated in. Finally, there was quite a few changes with regards to, there were some new properties that had been purchased, and so the minutes of the town council when they purchased, that was also incorporated into the plan to describe those properties and their use. So those are the major changes to the plan proper. Separately, there's two items that have also been added to the plan. There's now baseline demographic data, an appendix that's available for the town to go forward and actually continue to add information in so you can see where the town started and where they're going. And also the capital improvement plan has been added to the comprehensive plan. And so I know that the Planning Commission worked very hard on that. It was a 2009 version, but I believe in the end of last year they updated it. So the new update is actually now in the plan as well. Those are the major revisions.
Thank you. Okay, just to kind of set the tone, this is probably our most relaxed session of all. It's open for discussion. Anybody wants to bring up anything, we're all ears. Go ahead.
Getting down to the end now, so there have been previous opportunities for public input, so, you know, the last chance before it goes to press, I think that's where we're at. Well, we'll probably have to go through a couple more wickets, but as far as the Planning Commission goes, we think we've given it our best shot.
Any questions?
Comment.
Go ahead.
My name is Phil Getkin. I live with my wife Diane at 602 Jefferson. And we've been here, our house was completed in June. So we've been in the town for less than a year, although we did live over in Bay Creek for a while the house was being built. So we're still new to Cape Charles. I would say that our experiences from being here far exceed what we even thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be great. So we're really happy about being here. So we were not here when the initial opportunities to provide public input was given. In fact, today is the first time that I've looked at the planning document and I read it through quickly. I know that to be useful, that specific comments, page 3, line 2, this thing. I made a couple of notes as I was going through, just kind of general impressions, and I don't have specific comments line by line, which I'm sorry I don't have. But since we're here, we might as well say something. Generally, I think it provides a vision that is great. I'm not sure how realistic every single thing in there is. It's good to have a view and then make an attempt to get there, as opposed to setting your standards too low. But I think there are some things in there probably that are just not realistic and probably not going to happen over time. But that's just one impression that I got. One thing about the package that I looked at, and then I was trying to look at it online also, the one that was available, and kind of hard to follow. This map is a pretty good map. It's still some pretty little stuff in there, but as far as in the document, I couldn't read the map at all. And looking online, I tried to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and made it the more fuzzy it got. And I really wasn't able to relate a map to individual uses that were being explained and discussed in the process. So I think possibly more and better maps might be a good idea so that you can relate what's going on the specific uses or whatever that's being talked about that you can relate to the map. Just some kind of stream of consciousness. I'm not limited to three minutes, am I? Okay. Sort of as I went through, one thing that they talk about, one of the goals is a complete network of sidewalks, in addition to the bicycle lanes and everything else non-vehicle related. And that's one dream. I mean, a complete network of sidewalks. I'm not sure if in any of our lifetimes we'll ever see a complete network of sidewalks. It's a good goal to have, and I think there are some ways that we could probably get there more quickly. I looked at the town code I've looked at it several times, the town code on sidewalks, and it talks about the town council having the authority to require a property owner to not only maintain, but to install sidewalk if it's not there. I know that would be problematic for a lot of existing property owners, but I think if you really wanted a complete network of sidewalks with the addition of grants, VDOT or Army Corps of Engineers or whoever, there would be opportunities to do that faster rather than slower. In addition, on the bike network, you did mention the Southern Tip Bike Trail, which I was looking at today also, and I know it's mentioned sort of briefly in there. To me, this is something, I mean, if the town is really we talk about nature a lot in here and all these modes of transportation other than vehicles. I think that is great. I mean, to actually pursue that, and I don't think we really put a lot of effort into how we pursue that in this document. It mentions it sort of towards the end, but doesn't really talk about how we're going to do that. Talks about access to water in the harbor a lot, and for the most part, we do have access to most of the waterways in town, but I'm not sure who the one block at the railroad or whoever owns the one big block across from Mason there that really is not accessible, and it would be great if it was accessible. I'm sure or I hope it talks about as development occurs, that'll be a primary thing to be looked at when any development occurs. Talks about landscaping and plantings in various places in the document. Landscaping being my background, I'm glad I sort of have mixed emotions about the concrete plant, and a lot of people do. It obviously is a economic driver for the Eastern Shore, provides a lot of jobs. However, it's not the most attractive thing. I've learned to kind of live with it, and well, it's not that bad. You do listen to the beeping all day and night, but I think with some minimal landscaping, we could probably minimize the the visual impact of looking at the concrete plant, either closer to along the water or closer to Commisson along the fence that encloses that area. But I think we could really make the view shed a lot more attractive and acceptable. And it doesn't really talk about that in there, I don't think. Talks about, this is just, talks about pursuing acquisition of undeveloped waterfront lands, I think. Just, I'm all for that. I'm not sure what else you can do there. Talks about promoting use of native plants to help restore and enhance critical habitats. And I'm a former employee of the National Park Service and a landscaper, and I'm all about that. And one opportunity I think that we have here in town is that VDOT has a lot of right-of-ways. And in some cases, between the sidewalk and the curb, there may be 10 or 12 feet or more in some cases. I know that along our house, we have a corner lot, so we have 2 frontages, and in one place it's about 12 feet wide, and the other place it's about 7 feet wide. To me, with guidance, not just talking about having a tree plan, but a habitat plan, where in that area, which there is a lot of, if we're really serious about creating and enhancing critical habitats, that's one place where we can certainly do some good work, I think. You mentioned a new section was attracting families with children, and I know an issue on the Eastern Shore is the quality of public schools. And we don't mention in this document, I know we don't have a school other than the Christian school here in town. It does mention the Christian school in a couple of places. But it doesn't, in terms of amenities and assets that we have here in town, and we're trying to attract families with children, specifically says with children, I would think most families with children, first thing they want to know about is what about the schools? And I know that we probably will not have a public school here in Cape Charles, which is okay, but Cape Charles certainly can, and I'm sure we are doing a lot, but it seems to me in a planning document like this where you bring that up, that supporting Northampton County Public Schools to whatever extent we can would be critical as part of long-range planning. We talk about all these wish lists. Having the best schools in the state of Virginia would certainly be a positive for not only Cape Charles, but the Eastern Shore and all the people who live here. So, I guess that's about it. I apologize again for not having more specific line-by-line comments, but I think it's a great document, and
You come at it with fresh eyes, which gives us some things to think about.
but I was really kind of the fact that public schools are not mentioned there when we're talking about amenities and assets for trying to attract families with children, which I know this is an aging population here in Cape Charles, rapidly aging, according to the document, the charts put in there. We have certainly contributed to that aging process,
Look at the board members.
so we're all young at heart, but public education is something I think that
I'm
should
the
be part of
youngest
that
at 51.
document. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you for your service.
go ahead, sir.
My name is Tom Weaver. This is my wife Sue. We're residents of 702 Monroe Avenue. We're not permanent residents. We hope to be, or think about being. We currently have a home in Charlottesville, Virginia as well. I just have one question. It's sort of a general question. Each one of these things has a strategy. We talked about what you're going to do. Is there a following document, or does this get, I guess, filtered and sent to the appropriate body who will develop the plans and implement these? And then also, as you move through this 5-year plan, what sort of benchmarks are you going to use to really chart your progress?
You want to talk to that?
comprehensive plan is adopted by the town council, becomes part of the town's rules and guidelines. Most of the activities that the town council votes on, it is supposed to be checked against the comp plan to see whether or not they are in support of or in opposition to what is being discussed. So the comp plan is supposed to be our strategic and our tactical and our short-term guidelines against which we measure the ordinances and the decisions that we as council are making for the town. So it is not a document that is created, passed, and put on the shelf. And if you have been at some of our prior council meetings, there have been some very vocal conversations about what is and isn't in the planning comp plan and versus what we're trying to address from an ordinance or a voting perspective. So I hope that helps you.
It does. Again, I just come from a background where you have a business plan, you implement a business plan, and you sort of measure your progress against that. And I'm looking at things like ensure at the gateway signage. I mean, that's just an example here. Somebody would take that within the next 5 years, this is the 5-year comprehensive plan, and develop some program or tactics, as you call it, for implementing a strategy. And that would be interesting reading for me to see what that actually means.
Now, that's more of a, okay. If you're looking for a document, you're probably not going to find it. If you're looking for intent, it is certainly there. One of the other things that the comp plan does is it influences the capital improvement plan. That's when the money gets spent, all right? There have been a number of initiatives, sanctioned and unsanctioned, to deal with the issue specifically you talk about. So it's largely a matter of what's the most important. We don't have unlimited funds. We got to focus on what we can do with the funds we got and the human resources we have. And that's largely the decision of the town council. Because they're the ones that dole out how things get funded. We provide them guidance on what the community wants, and they get to choose what they're going to pay attention to for today kind of thing. There have been a number of this community is very big on volunteerism. There have been significant bodies of work. Central Park is a classic example. The library is another example. That have been largely done by volunteer work. The town got lucky in that Bank of America decided they didn't need a presence here anymore, and rather than put the building on the open market, they sold it to the town for $200K. The town grabbed it. It's not perfect. It's still got some work to be done inside, but it made for some transitions, and it made this place possible for this forum, because this is where the library used to be. So we're largely doing the best we can with what we got, but it is not anywhere near the rigor of business where you expect to have a plan, milestones, measurable results, adjustments to the plan, milestones, measurable results. That's a little bit too rigorous for what we have in terms of resources. But it's the plan that keeps us honest. The plan is the input from is a result of several years worth of work in interacting with the community, figuring out what's important to them, and doing what we can to meet what they think are things that need to be put forth and supported in terms of services and facilities. There are some things in here that are lightning rods for discussions. Well, that's what they are. And they remain in here for a good reason, because there's something that a number of folks want, And when we finally get enough money for it, and we get the political will to move forward with it, it'll happen. It's not going to be all sweetness and light, because the reason they haven't been implemented is because there are fundamental issues, security issues surrounding some of them. But still, as time rolls on, as town council works their work plan, capital improvement program, key to the comprehensive plan, things will move forward. We have made some significant improvements. We have more process now on the planning commission than we've had in a long time, thanks to the newer members of the planning commission. Each one of us goes through a formal training program. Each one of the people on the board goes through a formal training program. And sometimes after a couple of years we tend to forget, so the new folks come in and kind of remind us and keep us honest if nothing else. Comments?
Oh, that's fine. I get in summary from my vantage point, and I first of all appreciate all the effort that's gone into this. I know it's a long time in the making, actually a couple of years now.
And this is the second round of this particular document, yes? Yeah, yeah.
And it's an update, and it's an update to the original plan back in 2009. It was enlightening to see, gee, we've done a lot of things that were in that original plan. There are still things yet to be done, but you know, some of these things we're not going to give up on because they're very important. There's a lot of roadblocks, like getting approvals from the railroad or private individuals or VDOT and that sort of thing. But suggestions and all like that always help to kind of steer the ways. And as things get more feasible, then the capital improvement plan starts to listen in, and it, you know, when it gets on there, then you really know it's going to happen. And that's kind of a process that works that way. But 5 years from now, oh, gee, this did have some teeth. It did get things done. It wasn't just something that was put on the shelf. So you know, it's kind of what keeps some of those people participating here, because we know this is not just an exercise to check off a box in the state requirement or something like that, but it's something really the town respects and tries to follow to the extent possible.
Well, a fair amount removed because it was achieved.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, yes, yes.
It's been done.
Yep.
Yeah, I just closed with one comment. I was using that one example of signage, but if I want to eventually look at a document or something that describes what Cape Charles' position is on signage,
Oh,
that's what I was saying. So it's
Oh.
like a tactical part.
But
it's in here.
Oh, it's in here.
It's in here. Absolutely. It's in here.
That's, you answered my question.
Yeah.
It's subject
I have not read the document.
Yeah.
but there's some wayfinding things in the works right now, Joan. But wait till April, and I think you'll see a whole bunch of stuff happening along those lines.
Yeah, this body spent a lot of time on signage because we commented before about lightning rods. That became a lightning rod for this community. And it forced us to look at the existing ordinances to make sure that we had something that was enforceable and practical for the businesses at the same time. And did not violate in any way individual rights. Which is why we went through the whole review process of the sign ordinance to make sure that it fit for what the community needs were. Yeah, there's a specifically well-documented, I would say very specific sign ordinance already in place. And
Well, you asked my question.
okay, no problem. No problem. Sure. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, issues? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? It's done. Thank you.